Okay, thank you. Now we are recording. So while we're putting up the national anthem, I'd like to recount a wise saying by Kofi Annan, the seventh Secretary General of the United Nations. It says regarding NGOs and charitable organizations, he said, NGOs are the voice of the unheard, ensuring that inclusion is not just an ideal, but a reality for the marginalized. And this is what CNP is all about. They are the voice of the unheard. We've heard Lady Abba said this severally that they hold over 80 different programs in a year, just so that nobody feels marginalized. My kids have benefited from the coding classes, the Yoruba classes, and all of that. And thank you. Every time they join, they win gifts. So thank you again, CNP, for being the voice of the unheard. Now we'll take the national anthem. Thank you so much, Lady Abba. Thank you. Right about now, I will call on Orefeoluwa to help us take the land acknowledgement in English. Again, I'm going to apologize that our French speaker is not available. So if you would like to see this in French, please go ahead and set your translations to French so you can see the land acknowledgement in French. I'm going to share my screen refresh so you can see the land acknowledgement. Give me one quick second. Okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm Orefeoluwa. I'm a grade 12 student at Craig Kohlberger, and I've been volunteering for CMPs ever since it started. In the spirit and the intent of the Truth and Reconciliations Commission's recommendations, we acknowledge the traditional indigenous territories on which we guide the beginning of all CMP meetings. We wish to pay respect to Turtle Island, Mother Earth, and to the rich indigenous history of Ontario. We recognize that our work takes place on traditional indigenous territories across Ontario. We also wish to acknowledge that CMP head office is located on traditional indigenous territories of Currawenda, Haudenosaunee, and most recently the territory of the Mississauga to the credit. This territory is a part of Addition 1 Spoon Treaty, an agreement between the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the island nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. This territory is also covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. We wish to express gratitude to Mother Earth and for the resources they are using, and honor all the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people who have been living on the land since time immemorial. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Orefe. Thank you. Okay, just a quick recap about what we've done over the years. Like I said, this is the fourth edition of Power of Inclusion, proudly powered by the CNP, Council of Nigerian Professionals, now the CAP, Council of African Professionals. In the first year, we had a theme, What is the Force About?, where we laid the foundation by addressing and breaking down the barriers to inclusion. And then in year two, we talked about the strengths in our diversity, where we celebrated, our strengths and emphasized diversity as a strength rather than a challenge. And in the third year, we had a theme, the catalyst for change, where we empowered individuals and organizations to drive systemic change and act as a catalyst for change within our circles of influences. And then this is the fourth year, and the theme for the fourth year is a look within. And here we're looking at inclusive, including all our systems and structures in ensuring there's inclusion. We already talked about the legal system, the importance of the legal system in inclusion, the importance of governance inclusion. Earlier today, we talked about the importance of technology in inclusion. And this evening, we'll be talking about the importance of NGO and charitable organizations in inclusion. And we have two other sessions tomorrow, the importance of religion in inclusion and the importance of the financial industry in inclusion. Right about now, I will play a short video where we will see all our small businesses and our partners, and then I'll come back to talk about them in one quick second. So give me 1 sec. Okay. All right, so playing right about now. All right, so we've seen all our small businesses. Please let's encourage them, let's support them. This video is on our website, www.cpnngo, please, cpnngo.ca. So please let's support our small businesses. Small businesses are like the bedrock of the economy, so let's support them. I will now go back to sharing my screen and then officially mention all of the supporters and partners. So give me one quick second while I pull that up. Yes. So RBC is one of our supporters. Thank you, RBC. RBC has been there for us over the years. We do appreciate you. Thank you. This program is also sponsored and partly funded by the Government of Canada. Thank you, Government of Canada, for being a huge support. Thank you to our bronze sponsor, Luna. Luna is a huge support to us this year. They are giving us the all that we're using for the gala on Saturday. Thank you so much. And we have other partners, Grandmother's Voice. Grandmother's Voice is an indigenous organization. Thank you, African Caribbean Council of Outing, for your partnership. Thank you, Hispanotech. Hispanotech is an Hispanic organization. Thank you, Alliance Creative Community Project. This is a Ghanaian organization. Thank you, PESBOD. PESBOD is a not-for-profit focused on improving lives of children with disabilities. Thank you for including these children. Thank you, CIS Center. CIS Center is a Chinese organization. Thank you, the Care Foundation. This is an organization focused on caring for our caregivers. Thank you for including them. Thank you so much. And last but not the least, thank you, African Canadian Association of Ottawa, ACAO. Thank you very much for your partnership. We appreciate all the love and support. Thank you for the encouragement. And for Saturday, we have a lineup of performances. These guys will be performing on Saturday. So please try and enjoy and ensure you attend the event on Saturday, the gala, so you can enjoy all of these beautiful performances. Okay, so this evening, we have our moderator, Immanuel Okoroafor. Immanuel was born in Lagos in Nigeria and raised in Canada since the age of 6. Give me one quick second. Okay. Immanuel holds a double major in law and political science from Algoma University and an LLB from the University of Dundee in the UK, hoping to practice law. Alongside his academic background, Immanuel has been a lifelong volunteer, actively contributing to various NGOs. He is a skilled graphic designer. And a speaker. He blends creativity with advocacy in both legal and community initiatives. Please welcome to the virtual stage, Immanuel Okoroafor.
Thank you so much for that introduction.
Yeah.
I was about to say, who are you speaking about? Okay.
So, Immanuel, before you take the stage, I will call on Jody Harbour for a quick welcome address as an Indigenous Wisdom Keeper. But before then, I'll just quickly show all our other panelists. We have Rosemary Sadlier. We have Jody Harbour. You will be hearing from Jody in a while. This is a speech you don't want to miss, so just hold on tight. We have Ovie Onagbeboma. Ovie looks like a Miss World in this picture. So you guys, talking about beauty and the brains, you're going to see that here tonight, I promise you. Just hold on tight, and then we will have the panel session in a bit. But just before then, we will take the welcome address from Jody Harbour as an Indigenous Wisdom Keeper. So Jody, over to you, please. Thank
you. Nyawa, I don't know that I would call myself a wisdom keeper. I know that I share the wisdom of my ancestors, and I'm really fortunate to be able to hang out with some really cool people who have, I think, this amazing universal connection that we all want to tap into these days. So, I think we all have our wisdom within us, and we share it in the best way. In our Indigenous realm, it can be very sensitive these days because, we're reclaiming. We're in a time of reclaiming the lands and our culture and people, and so it can be tricky to announce yourself or be announced as some kind of knowledge keeper when we all walk with our life experiences for the reason to share them, so that everyone can connect, whether it's through the experiences that may be similar or that may resonate with people. But I appreciate so much my spirit when you said that. I actually felt in my body very comfortable, but knowing that, if there are Indigenous people that are listening, they may think, what gives her the right to be called a knowledge keeper? And so in evenings like this, when I'm sharing knowledge that's been transferred or utilizing my own life experiences, it's to share my perspectives. We can say that we are knowledge keepers. We all are knowledge. We're the keepers of our own knowledge and experiences. And so, I invite in this moment for those who are watching now and watching later at this time to just really be grounded in the conversations that we're going to be speaking about, because this is, I've been following this since the beginning as well. I think I was a part of the very first one. And it really moves me how powerful the power of inclusion is. It just really resonates and vibrates that what we need to be doing right now in this time. And think about 4 years ago where we were in COVID or just before COVID, I think it was. I know it was in COVID. And we were reaching out the best way that we could through this web, right? This World Wide Web, to reach the people because our societies were not allowed to, we weren't allowed to be in public, in person. And so look at how we continue to use this beautiful platform to connect with people. So I'd like to just acknowledge this beautiful connection through our virtual world, and just acknowledge all the energies that are between me and all of you out there. That, we have all of the beautiful elements of the water and the land and the animals and the sky and the stars, and our grandmother moon, and and Mother Earth and the sun. That's what we as Indigenous people acknowledge every day that we wake up. And so to know that there is a land acknowledgement that we begin, and even the national anthem, that in a sense as well has held that space for acknowledging the land for all our countries. And this is a very Indigenous way of being that we acknowledge where we come from. So I'm honored that that you gave me a space to just be saying hi and welcome, and let's have some good conversations about what we need to do together to make change. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Jody. I liked how you started. You said you've had the privilege of hanging out with some very cool people. And going forward from today, when you talk about us, you would tell them, oh, I know Taiwo Julius. Oh, I know Ovie. I know Immanuel, Oriofe. They are very cool people. And you will talk about us like that too. So thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate that. So right about now, I will be handing over to handing us over to the very capable hands of Immanuel Okoroafor, who will be moderating the conversation this evening. So, Immanuel, over to you. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Julius, for that wonderful introduction and handing it over to me. Hi, everyone. My name is Immanuel Okoroafor, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. Before I go on, I'd just like to touch on the translation. As our wonderful MC said, if you look to your bottom right, the second icon is for translation in caption. So whether you want to read it in a different language, the choice is yours. Now, with that being said, let's get on with it. So today's sub-theme is the importance of NGOs and non-charitable organizations in inclusion. And with that being said, we have a wonderful bunch of panelists who will be speaking on multiple subjects and touching on how NGOs and non-charitable organizations help. With that being said, in no particular order, I'll be introducing each of our panelists. So our first panelist up is Madam Ovie Onagbeboma. She is the CEO of the Canadian Black Nursing Alliance and also part of the 2024 100 ABC Accomplished Canadian Women. She's also a voice for anti-Black racism and EDI. Welcome. Our next speaker, our panelist, is Jody Harbour, who you just heard, that gave us that wonderful intro. She's the founder of Grandmother's Voice, an Indigenous organization which is founded on addressing the common need to reflect on our roots and each other. Welcome. And last but not least, we have Madam Adejisola Atiba, also known as Lady Yaba. She's a TEDx speaker, author, EDI advocate, community leader, life coach. It goes on and on. But she, most of all, I'm not sure if any of you know this, but she is my mother. And welcome. So with that being said, we all know that no one can really introduce us other than ourselves. So with that being said, I would like to give each of our panelists just a minute to touch more on what they would like us to know about them. So who would like to go first? Okay, then I guess I'm picking. Miss Ovie, would you like to go?
Good evening, everybody. Depending on where you are across the globe, my name is Ovie Onagbeboma, and I just want to shout out Immanuel for pronouncing my name properly because when you do that, then it literally equates to what it means in Orobo, and my name means king in Orobo. And I will share this. My father was very, I guess, prophetic in that name. He wanted all boys. He ended up with three boys, one girl, and he didn't switch my name when I was very evident a woman. But I think when you look at that, I think in my background, in my faith background, we all have the ability to have kingdom dominion on this earth, and we have our handpicked individually, uniquely to do what God has created us to do. And just to give you a little bit of background about me, I'm very passionate about walking a purpose-driven life. And it's a pleasure to be here to share how in walking a purpose-driven life, the power of NGOs and charitable organizations can play a pivotal role in shaping and bringing forward community in the work that they do. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you
And for
so
those
much.
who may not know, I'm Nigerian and Guyanese Canadian by background.
Thank you so much for that introduction. We hope to hear more about you, especially when it comes to your expertise in this subject matter. Next, I guess I'll switch it up. Madam Adejisola, would you like to go next?
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Immanuel. And it's truly a pleasure to be here. Considering I've been here since day one, right? I was not supposed to speak, but our speaker had to attend another event where she's been honored, and so I jumped in, hoping that I won't break a leg. But before I go into introducing myself, I just want to do a quick shout out to Jody Harbour. Jody was actually a speaker in 2021. We've been on this journey for quite some time, Jody? She has become a sister from another mother, and she continues to support the work that we do in the community, and she does a lot of work. I truly encourage everyone to join them for whatever events they happen, and I think we'll post the link in the chat so that we can stay abreast of what they're doing. Again, they're the owners of the land. It's important that we know that, we respect that, we support that, and we get to know them more. And this amazing woman, believe you me, Immanuel was practicing your name like no man's business. He told me to send a recording. Yeah, I'm saying it. How do you pronounce her name? So he still butchered it a little. You're quite very, you're very gracious. I met this woman in Ottawa, and we were like, wow, we gotta get to know ourselves. If we're here, we gotta know who we are. And I've realized that she actually supports the nurses. The nurses, those people support a lot of us, and so they do need support themselves, especially the people from other culture. So thank you for all you do. Now, who am I? My name is Adejisola Atiba, Lady Abba. I'm gonna stop there. Back to you, Anson.
Okay, that was a lovely introduction. But I would like to touch on what you just did, which is to give honor to whom honor is due. In all honesty, if you see someone doing the work, shout them out, right? It doesn't cost anything just to show kindness and appreciation. And with that being said, last but definitely not least, Jody Harbour.
Scano, Jody Nigaso, thank you so much. It's been an honor to be in this relationship. Truly to, when you're in community and seeing people that you support, this is a great example of what we're going to talk about tonight. So my great grandmother was of the Cayuga Nation, Six Nations of the Grand River Territory. That's here in Ontario, about 45 minutes from where I am right now in Oakville. That's on my dad's side. That was his mom. And from my mom's side, she is English and Romanian. And I have always loved just wanting to know more about where I come from. And I do my work. I do the work today because my grandmother showed up in my journey from the spirit of her guiding me to do this work. And so that's why I called this organization Grandmother's Voice. after I met my family, my ancestry from Six Nations. One of the relatives was a grandma. She's an Indigenous grandma, Renee Thomas Hill and Grandma Gail Whitlow, and they helped me start this organization based off of the work that these grandmas from all over the world have been doing this work for centuries. To preserve knowledge from the Indigenous perspective so that we can actually, in this time right now, bring that nurturing love back into our communities. And I truly believe that it is through these nonprofits where we have to get back to the reason they were created was, that true love for community, and why we have these opportunities. The people that lead this work do it from a heart place. And so I'm honored to be having this conversation. Yeah.
No, that was well stated. And you really did hit the nail on the head where you said that nonprofits and charitable organizations are really the power of just people saying, let's just start something, right? And even if we don't know, we'll learn as we go. But at least let's just start, because obviously there's a need for it, right? And shout out to everyone who takes on that call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now that you've all met our wonderful speakers, each of them actually have a series of questions that they'll be asked. And with that being said, if you have any questions, feel free to just put them right away in the chat. And when it's time for the Q&A, it'll be called upon. I know how it feels to like always have questions in mind and then write it out and just like, oh, it's already passed. Don't worry about it. We'll go back to the questions. So take your time, listen, and let's all learn together. So just give me a moment as I bring up the questions. And does anyone want to volunteer first?
I'll probably go first to take the pressure off my own self.
Okay. It's always nice to go first because you forget about it once you're done, right? Very well. And actually, before I go on, I should have asked this prior, but is there a way you'd like me to refer to you for the rest of the evening? I know Madam Adejisola likes Lady Abba, so I'll be calling her Lady Abba. How would you like me to refer to you?
Funny, I hear Lady Abba and my WhatsApp social media name is Lady O.
Okay. We can go with Lady O.
So you can go with Lady O.
Very well. Miss Jody, how would you like to be referred to?
Oh, I like Lady Jody. No,
Lady Jody. Okay, let's
call
go.
me
We
you can call me
the
Auntie. How's that?
Auntie. Okay.
No. Call me whatever
Honestly,
you
it's
like. They call me
whatever.
Jody. Yeah,
You know what?
I answer to many,
I
to many
think we're just
different
gonna have
ways.
a round table of the high ladies. Honestly, Lady
Yeah,
Abba, Lady Jody,
yeah,
Lady O. I like
yeah.
this.
All right.
Okay. Now, with that being said, Lady O, your first question. What role should NGOs and charitable organizations play in advocating for policy changes that support inclusion at a systemic level?
Okay, so I love this question. And I think before I go into just listing the couple of things that can be done, I think it's very important to recognize that NGOs and charitable organizations play a pivotal role as catalysts for systemic change by advocating for inclusive policies that reflect the realities and the needs of racialized communities or communities where voices are muted. I think when you look at the strength that lies in the abilities of NGOs and charities, what you will see that will come about from the role that they play is they elevate voices, they leverage data and evidence, they build coalitions, they hold systems accountable. And when you look at those four things that I'm listing here, elevating voices goes back to me identifying that oftentimes racialized communities are those with voices that are muted. NGOs become that leading voice for these individuals and communities where their voices are silenced or the experiences that they're going through are silenced or overlooked. When you're looking at leveraging data and evidence, there's no data, no problem. And I will kind of preface, like when we look at our counterparts across the globe, the UK, in the US as it relates to data collection and evidence of the impact of a lack of inclusivity. Canada is a little bit behind on that data collection, or Canada is kind of scared to kind of use the data that we currently have and say, yes, we actually have a real problem. Let's take actionable steps to move us further than we currently are since 2020. Right? How many people are currently worried that we're going backwards in our efforts to build more inclusive policies and changes within our community? So leveraging data and evidence is huge, right? So when you're looking at building coalitions, like building those coalitions to leverage having the robust data, building that evidence and elevating voices. When you're building coalitions, you're uniquely positioned as an NGO, a charitable organization, to unite diverse stakeholders and grassroots organizations to policymakers. And those coalitions help to advocate collectively to sustain an impactful policy change. So overall, NGOs, like, you must remain steadfast. I know sometimes resources and all aspects of resources outside of just financial resources become a challenge. But NGOs, charitable organizations, must be steadfast in their commitment to advocacy and ensuring that their approaches are informed by directly impacting the systemic exclusion of the communities that are often silenced and not represented.
Realized I was muted. Well said. You're absolutely right. Leveraging data and evidence, it should be the main point, like the main speaking point, because that's how you show the trail, right? You show exactly what's going on, how it's happening, and what could be done to alleviate the process, right? Or at least what can be done to ease the transition through. So thank you so much for that explanation. So are you ready for your next question? Actually, before we do that, does anyone on the panel want to touch on anything that was just said? We do want this conversation. Lady Jody?
Well, I think that all of the questions that we're going to be talking about kind of will cover what I could respond. So I don't want to like go somewhere else with it because but I think that NGOs and nonprofit, all of that stuff, like, even though it states that we're not a government organization, we know we get funding from the government. So I see this as an Indigenous person in a time where our people are liberating themselves, and really coming forward and making their space in place from, trying to not be controlled by the government. We're in a really different position for myself anyway, looking at like how, we have missions. We have to know our value. That's the biggest part of everything that we do, right? Knowing your value as an NGO or a nonprofit or a collective of people is really important. And also, I could go on and on and on.
No, but you're absolutely right. Even in business, your value is what sets you apart from your competition. So that is well stated. Lady Abba, anything else? No? Okay. Lady O, are you ready for your next question?
I am.
Okay, here we go. So, in what ways can NGOs improve their internal practices to reflect the diversity of the community they serve?
Ooh, that's a loaded one. So the biggest thing with improving internal practices to reflect the diversity in communities. And I'm seeing a comment that's in the chat, but I'll leave it for when we get there. But I think it's important to model that inclusivity that they seek to promote external by aligning with internal practices with the diversity of communities they serve. So even when you're representing a racialized group or a group that's muted, there needs to still be diverse leadership within your NGO. There needs to be diverse leadership within your not charitable organization. And what does that truly mean, right? It means that when you're looking at the research of the Ontario Not-for-Profit Network, it reveals that only 20% of our boards in Canada are diverse. right? So how are you perpetuating that percentage within your own non-for-profit and charitable organization? And then you need to be intentional with your recruitment to retain a board that's diverse with senior leaders from underrepresented communities. And obviously, diverse leadership fosters expertise. I'll give an example of Canadian Black Nurses Alliance. When we look at our board and executive leaders, yes, it's great to find nurses who fit certain skill sets that we do need, but a lot of our partners, stakeholders, and those who are part of our board have expertise in other areas that allow our actual organization as a non-for-profit to be sustainable and to be competitive in the business aspect of an NGO. So being open to that diversity in leadership and looking at not perpetuating the statistics that we do see as it relates to a lack of diversity for underrepresented communities. The biggest thing for me is equity, right? So equitable hiring practices. Again, when you're modeling that within your own charitable organization, within your own NGO, then you're actually becoming this model of how do you attract talent? How do you build talent within your NGO so that way it becomes this catalyst to what you will do in the marketplace within whether you're professional organizations or if you take your experience from an NGO and you start an entrepreneur journey for a for-profit organization. So I think when you're establishing those hiring practices that we may not see in other corporate organizations or academic institutions, that we're actually prioritizing the equity and including the blind recruitment process within our own ways of doing things. And I think Lady A does it so well in terms of the times that I've been exposed to the work that she's doing, within this entity. It's always been inclusive. It's always represented diverse people from diverse backgrounds. It's never missed a nail on that. So I think this is a great way she's modeling it, right? If you're starting up, you don't know how to do it, your example is right here in the efforts and the leadership that she did. I think it's very important. She took herself out of her leadership position, but still showed leadership in stepping up to the table today and filling in a seat where a colleague had competing priorities. So modeling is huge, which was the opening way that I said it. So ongoing training and development. I think people, and I heard this in the previous talk, we don't realize the importance of leveraging your skill sets and leveraging the opportunities of training and development that comes from working with NGOs and charitable organizations and investing in that cultural competence of anti-racism training and leadership to ensure inclusivity is embedded in our daily operations. And then the community-driven representation. I think all of us here have professional journeys or are working in the duality of non-for-profit charitable entity and potentially working in the marketplace within professional environments, right? So that community-driven representation with the NGOs regularly engage communities and serve so that the voices are being pulled from the community into the areas and avenues that we have privilege and influence to be bringing that voice of advocacy there. And the biggest thing, the driving mechanism here is accountability mechanisms, right? So if you look at the staying power of NGOs and charitable organizations, how do you within your own NGO adopt transparent metrics to measure your progress on diversity, equity, inclusion goals, and regularly publishing that data to foster accountability and encourage continuous improvement? So I think if you embrace the strategies that I listed, that you can ensure that internal structures reflect and support diverse communities and aim to serve enhancing the legitimacy of that impact, but most importantly, modeling that, right? Because as you build sustainability in the work that you're doing, you're also becoming this blueprint of how it's done well. And again, I just shout out CNP for being that blueprint, one of those blueprints for modeling this well as it relates to this question. So, having that as an example also made it very easy to answer that for an organization that's been around for quite some time.
Thank you so much for that. That was really well stated. You made a couple points. You mentioned accountability. You mentioned intentional hiring process as to equitable hiring. And I love how most of the things you said were very top level downwards, like the leadership has to match what's actually going on. And from that leadership, you can actually spread it out so that it goes into the hiring process, then it goes into actual community within it. So lots of things are very said. And one thing I also want to put is you're basically saying to make sure you meet what you're supposed to meet, hold the mirror to yourself. Make sure you are the example, right? And that is well stated. Thank you so much for that. With the last question, does anyone have anything to add? Okay, I guess we can move on to our next speaker. Well, Lady O, the weight is off your shoulders. It's time to enjoy. Okay, next person is Lady Jody. How are you ready?
Hey, yeah, I like that.
Let's go. Okay, so your first question is, what strategies can NGOs use to build long-term relationships with diverse communities to ensure ongoing trust and collaboration?
So what I'm going to bring into this conversation is the spirituality of the work that I do. It's really important, especially again as Indigenous people continue to liberate themselves and really take place in space in their own country. And the work that I do was based off of 3 generations of suicide in my family, from my dad, my grandma, my great grandma. Society didn't have a place for them. And so for me, as a white passing Indigenous woman, it was really important for me to take that back from my ancestors and for my ancestors and really create that healing. So I'm just like thinking about the depth of and purpose of NGOs and nonprofits and that whole beginning of how they started in this country alone and how if we go back far enough they were about maybe about religion or really representing those voices of marginalized communities and that even though we're not a non-governmental organizations or however you want to look at that, we're still funded by the grants, the understanding, the research we do. It all goes back to the government so that they can tell us, here's some more money here, this is what you're saying we need to do. But what's happening right now is that we're moving really fast. We're moving faster than the government. And we're in a time right now that I believe that our democracy of the voices of the people, we need to really start to grab the people in our community, in our societies and say, hey, it's time now to look at the value system of the people. And, if our government's going rogue, this is a perfect opportunity for NGOs and nonprofits to step up and be like, okay, people, we're doing this for you. And so we really need to be loud and proud of, as being, organizations that are seen as, you can't make money. Right? You're a nonprofit. And maybe if we shift that language of being a nonprofit to we are very profitable. We are rich in our emotions and knowing that our passion is we are emotionally profitable, right? So shifting that language of why we do what we do and why we're so passionate. We are in a really amazing time of the people to step forward and so I look at the value system of Indigenous people from all world, from all, you bring even being in this in this beautiful circle with the Nigerian community, right? You bring your values and you bring everything about how you show up in community to this platform and people come and they feel welcome. And so I look at that from an Indigenous perspective that it's our time. I don't mean that in any disrespect. It's everyone's time. But just we are at a time where we get to bring our essence now. We get to show up and be like, hey, yes, this happened to us. Yes, it was genocide. Yes, it was all of these horrible things. But what we can bring to society is what existed here before colonization happened, before everything happened. And we have, there's similarities to that truth and reconciliation that happened around the world already, right? We're just now present in the time and we actually have this momentum and we can learn from other countries that have had the same experiences, but maybe didn't talk about what it meant, what it means to be these roles in as an NGO or a nonprofit, or these voices that we have ethics and values that we want to live by, and we want to reintroduce them to our government, to our society. So I guess to get to the point of what we would bring it is those grandfather teachings, and we say those. We just speak the words of what we need to live by, which is, the love, the wisdom, respect, honesty, truth, humility, and courage. And we can embed that now, and we don't have to hide behind Western language of, even though, education is like, what got us into it. That's a Murray Sinclair famous quote, and education will get us out of it. But also, Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon, and that inspires young activists all over the world right now. So have a lot of commonalities, and it's really about bringing that essence of and passion to what we do. Remove that, like, some of the language, because that's what our people are about. We're like, it's what you speak is so important. What you say is, and so it reflects in the work that you do. So that's I think I answered that question. I didn't write anything down.
No, you actually stated everything quite clearly, and it actually all ties back to what you said in the beginning, where we should know our value as a collective. Honestly, everything just tied right back into that very statement. And well, you have a way with words. I'll just say that all our panelists really do have a way with words. Does anyone have anything to add to what was stated? And before anyone adds anything else, I hope everyone's taking notes, because I am. Okay, I am ready and eager to go. So, any other people in the Q&A audience, please be ready. Please be ready, because we'll be calling on you. Okay, because I am learning a lot. With that being said, we'll go to your next question. Are you ready? Okay. Now, how can NGOs and charitable organizations better collaborate with marginalized communities to amplify their voice?
The only way that I think they can is to get in them, get to those communities, get in there and get to know them. And that's another piece of the piece, like a reconciliation or Indigenous ways of knowing, is we cannot do anything without relationship. And so if you think about even just getting married, you don't jump into marriage, without getting to know the person. I mean, some do. And hey, it works. It can work when you're all in it and your heart in it. So every question, that I saw here, for me, because I'm an Indigenous woman and this is our homelands, and we really want to make change, we have to really look at the truth of where we are as a society, and we are in the truth and reconciliation, and reconciliation is healing. And really looking at, like, we'll never move forward in anything if we don't look at the original people. We have these, situations and serious issues in our society today because it was genocide, because this country was built off of, horrible acts. I think of, just from my teachings, Alan Sutherland. He's one of my amazing historians. You can check him out on his website. Go to our website and you'll see him there. And he talks about, like, the beginning of time, and, missionaries and religious groups, and they were all funded by the government. And we're talking about, like, the churches that's what really happened in our country, right? The churches were a part of the government. So that's truth. And some of those things that happen, like the taking of the children and all of the real truths of our history here, are playing out now in our society. Homelessness, alcoholism, like, these are serious issues across our country that started a century ago, more than a century ago, to create this country. So I really believe that we have to look at, like, where we are situated in this country, and how are we really looking at the underlying and actually I'll just go right back to do share a teaching with you. In the land acknowledgement that you mentioned, it said the dish with one spoon, and I would invite all of the guests here to research dish with one spoon, because that's a teaching, that's a treaty, it's an understanding, it's a relationship. And it was between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee people, where they talked about there was one dish, and the one dish had all the food in it, and and there are so many different teachings about this, but I'm just going to kind of make it short. And the spoon represented, not a fork, but a spoon that you couldn't hurt each other with. But it was meant that if that if not everyone could be fed, then no one could be fed. Like, we have to make sure that every person is taken care of. And if they're not taken care of, we are not healthy. We are not a healthy society. And so those are teachings. The Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the people from, back then, they did have some really beautiful understandings of how we take care of each other. And I think that they very like much in the democracy, right? And that's when the people have something to say and do. And that's where I see, the NGOs and that's our responsibility of the people. So to engage the people and make change is to go right into those communities and say, what can we do for you? Because we can't be doing this work without them. We can't be not asking people, what do you need in your, what do you need? And then we're doing all this other performative stuff, but not inviting them into the conversation. So, much like the Black nurses, right? They're the ones doing the work. So they need to be the ones, telling you what they need. But yeah, so thank you for that opportunity.
No, well said. And you're absolutely right. You can't say you represent people without knowing what they need or knowing where the issue lies, right? You need to, first of all, go there, learn what's going on, and then from there, not come from your own perspective and say like, oh, well, this is what you should do, instead of like, okay, so what can we do for you, right? How can we better alleviate the
With you.
circumstances you are? Exactly, with you, not for you, with you. Yes, it's a team effort, right? It's a community. We are a collective. 10 out of 10. I love this. I'm learning so much. And it's really good to have a different perspective, because it's one thing for you to listen from your own worldview, and then it's another thing for someone who, even on the same topic, just from a different walk of life, come and say, hey, how about from this perspective, right? And it just opens up the ballgame even more. It's no longer like black and white, now it's blue and red also, right? So it's really good to have a plethora of opinions on something, especially if it's something important to you, so you know the whole story. Now, with that being said, we'll be moving on to our last panelist. Are you ready, Lady Abba?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, your first question. What? So sorry. What roles do NGOs play in addressing systematic barriers that prevent marginalized groups from accessing resources and opportunities?
What roles do they play? Wow.
Yes.
I think all the distinguished panelists have been saying exactly that. But I'll tell a story. And my story will be based on advocacy and awareness. So I live in the region of Alton. I've been living there now for 8 years plus. When I started living there, 1 year in, 2 year in, by that time I've been 12 years in Canada, for crying out loud. 1 year in the region, 2 years in, I noticed that in February, there is no talk about Black history. And so we decided to find out why and what we can do about it. And so we went and we had conversations with the political leadership in the community, and they did agree that this is something that should have happened. But without advocacy, without awareness, maybe that would not have happened. And so I'm happy to say that that nonprofit made them realize that there's a lot to be done, especially to the fact that we live in a very, very diversified country, like Canada. We continue to welcome people from all over the world. And if we do that, we need to ensure that everybody is seen, heard, right? And, celebrate what's important to them. And they did agree that, that's something that was missed. The best time to do something is yesterday. The next best time to do it is now. And so it was done. And since then, it was never missed again. And that's the power of nonprofit. You see a need. You see a hole, you fix it. You see a need, you look for something that would change the narrative. We can decide to sit back. I mean, we all have different things. There's nobody working in nonprofit that doesn't have a job that they do that brings in the money. I mean, I tell people that banking is my profession, but community is my passion. But another thing I've been telling people is banking is what makes me look beautiful. Community gives me the gray hair. But even though it gives me the gray hair, I still do it because of passion. And I really feel that's what, anyone in that space brings to it, passion. You gotta love it. If it's all about the money, you're in the wrong place. You gotta love what you're doing because it's gonna test you. Somebody sent a message to me and said, they're so happy about the consistency and everything that we're doing, that, just keep your head high in the good days and not so good days, because there are good days and there are not so good days. And so, yes, around my story, again, nonprofit, one of the ways they're addressing systemic barriers is advocacy. We gotta speak up. They're the voice for the voiceless. They're the bridge builders. You can name them to be anything. But another thing, because I saw Bola post in the chat saying profitability beyond finance. Yes, we get funding from the government, but there's so many ways we could be profitable. And we can be profitable, and that's why I'm going to do a call to action. We can be profitable when the communities we serve actually stand up to support. That's when we can be profitable. And how do you support? We're not talking money, we're talking skills. We're talking experience, we're talking expertise to support. Because it could be lonely at times. It could be lonely most times, actually. Everybody else out there will look at you and say, what the hell does she think she's doing? I can do it better. And that's true. That's very correct. But they can use that to add value to it. There's, no man can do this work that we do. And when we advocate, am I advocating for myself? Well, yes, you may say yes, because I am, really, to be candid. I'm advocating for myself. But then again, if you ask me, I'm going to say I'm advocating for you. And I'm advocating for our children. I'm advocating for our unborn generation. And the point is, no I can do it. It is we collectively that can do it. And so my call to action to everyone listening, and everyone that will listen to this video later, watch this video later because it's going to be on YouTube, is be a part of it. Be a part of the solution. We need to do it together. We need to advocate together. We need to create awareness together. We need to be the voice for the voiceless together. I said this before that, when we come to Canada, and I know that our experiences are very, very different. I mean, Jody's experience is different from mine. They own the land. Ovie, I didn't even know that Ovie was not just Nigerian. I thought she was Nigerian. I didn't know she had that mix. And that's the thing of talking, having conversations with each other, communicating with each other. So our experience is different from mine. And I know my experience, right? So when we come into Canada, I mean, I think I mentioned it, I don't know whether it was this session or the session before, that you come in and Canada kind of makes you feel like you're nothing. And it is nonprofit, charitable organizations that comes together that supports you, mentors you, guides you, and make you feel that you are something. Makes you remember who you are. You tend to forget. Makes you remember who you are. It's true advocacy. It's true creating awareness. It's true speaking up, because a lot of people are in different life stages. Maybe they have little children, they can't do what Lady Abba does. Because, I mean, my children are grown up, right? I don't need to babysit them anymore. I got time, but do I really? People create time from no time. So even though you are in a different phase in your life, my call to action to you is support. Support the nonprofit, support the charitable organizations. Let's advocate together. Let's create awareness together. Let's build each other up together. Be that voice for somebody that cannot speak for themselves, because it's not everybody that's cut out for this job. I'm going to stop there.
Well said. I love how you said you start with a story, but then you even went in deeper and even answered the question even more. You touched on a couple things that I actually do want to call back to. And I love the fact that you also called back to one thing that Jody said, which was being profitable beyond financing. And that is so true. And for anyone that doesn't know, I've been with CMP since the inception. And it wasn't until I started university that I actually started working as like the media representative doing designs for them. And it reached a point like I'm self-taught in everything I make, that I reached a point where they'll ask me a question like, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, sure, I can do it. And then I'm on YouTube, I'm on Fiverr, just like learning how to do it, just to make sure I can. And the reason why I say this is that it can help build a skill set, right? It can help you build a skill set, whether it's managing projects, like they'll put you in charge to handle a couple things, managing, you can learn to write grants, which is actually a payable skill set that you can do a profitable side business with. Go to NGO, have them teach you how to write a grant so you can write grants for them. And then while you're writing grants for them, you open a side business and write grants for other businesses, right? So use them as it is really a community of breeding skill sets and mindsets. So just as you can donate, they can also donate their time and skills to you. I teach my younger brother how to do some things as well that he's doing on his own, doesn't need my help anymore, and he's taking it off, right? So it's not always about the financing, but it's also about how building the community as a whole. Thank you so much. Oh, another thing I wanted to touch on, where you said that someone can look at me and say, well, I could do it better. The thing is, it's always easy to judge the first person doing it. They're the one setting the foundation, right? They're showing you what not to do, the hurdles you can jump over, the things you can miss, right? So it's always easy to place judgment like, oh, they can do it. I could probably do better. Yes, you can, because you have someone in front of you, right? We are all walking in the steps of giants. So we should still give on, even if you can do more, even if you have ideas that can take it a different way, still shout out to your predecessors. It doesn't take anything. So I think I rambled a bit much, so we'll move on to your next question. Are you ready? Okay. So how can NGOs and charitable organizations measure their impact on inclusion to ensure they are making meaningful progress? Meaningful progress.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to just talk about 2 points. One is knowing your why, right? Why are you doing what you're doing? What made you decide this is the right thing to do? What are you trying to achieve? And what has been the outcome? Right? So, over time, we've seen a lot of nonprofit and charitable organizations emerge. And when people ask me, I tell them that the sky is big enough for birds to fly. We all have that innate desire in us. Seriously, it doesn't matter why somebody goes into a nonprofit world. For them to do it, it's because they want to make a change. So we all have that innate desire in us to change something. We all have that niche. that we feel, we can do it. And so let that be the driving force to why we're doing what we're doing. And while we do that, let's think of working together with others that, have different ideas that will add value to us. And collectively, we can actually change the narrative. So when we know our why, it helps us to set clear goals. It helps us to know what we want to do differently, what we want to achieve. So I remember when we actually started in 2018, one of the things that we were focused on, starting as counsel on NGO professional, was to change the narrative around the Nigerian people. But that's not so much important now. And that's why it's important to know when to push, when to pivot, and when to let go. Right? When you're going in one lane, you realize, okay, and again, that's why we move from CMP to CAP, right? To CAP. It's important for you to know when to change your lane so that you do not become obsolete. So knowing your why, but knowing that there may be situations where you need to make certain accommodations, make certain changes to continue to be impactful in your why, which will translate to your outcome. So as a community, we set certain goals. Whether we like it or not, we know that finance is not so much in our community. Maybe because we're still kind of new in the community, maybe because we don't have the positions or the businesses to hire our people. And so what can we do differently to ensure we're actually educating ourselves around that? Another thing around finance is, I'm sure the men in here are going to smile when I say this, estate planning. People just don't like to talk about that. We need to think about things that will add value to our community. I believe in the session we had before now, they talked about digital literacy, but I want to talk about financial literacy because we know that that's something that we really need. And not only that, again, what is our why? It's not just about finance. It's also about our children. And so how are we now leveraging our why to support our youths? I'm proud. I mean, Professor Fosse mentioned in the chat that Immanuel Heiser likes introducing your home's mom. You make any parent proud. I'm proud. I'm a proud woman. Because when they say what's your accomplishment, our children, our accomplishment. I didn't get my first degree until I was 35. My son has a double degree at 26. What's not to be proud of? And really, whether we like it or not, NGO, CMP, ACCH played a part in it. You were involved from the get-go. You handled projects. It's not because you know how to do it, but we say that when we do something and we do it over and over again, practice surely does make perfect. So we bring in our youths, our why, right? What's your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? I remember a story, and I'm sure you remember it too. There was this lady. Her daughter was going through certain phases. I'm so happy I don't have a girl. At least not a girl that is growing up. Kudos to all of you that have raised girls. I've raised girls vicariously. But believe you me, I don't know. Maybe one would have killed each other. I do not know. But this girl was going through life, a lot of bullying, a lot of things happening in school and all that. And they brought her to CMP. And I held on to her. When we're doing events, she's on the screen. She's reading land acknowledgement. She's talking about her businesses. Eventually, it became a part and parcel of her. This was a girl that could not speak in her school. She began to win awards from big financial institutions. I'm happy to say that she's in university now, second year. And why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Another young boy was in French, it was maybe having 40s. And then all of a sudden joined CMP French classes and started, his marks went up significantly. And the teacher had to ask him, what happened? And he said, I attended CMP French classes. And yeah, big deal. He said, because when I ask questions, nobody laughs at me. And so it gives me confidence to ask questions. Again, what's our why? And it's our why that makes us design certain programs to get certain outcomes. So I'm going to stop there. This is why I try not to, answer when you say, is there anything to add? Because I know I'm a talker. I can speak till like tomorrow. So I'll stop there.
Honestly, I don't think anyone will complain. I was just engrossed taking notes all through. And again, like I think I just keep repeating myself. You are absolutely right. You keep hitting the nail on the head. The notion of the why is really the driving force, because you don't there's a saying, you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, right? And the why is the way you've been. Like, so what is the driving factor? Where are you trying to go? What is the goal? All derived from the why. If you don't have a why, you're just moving aimlessly, right? And then you also said another thing, you can't be stagnant, right? You can't be stagnant. You can't rest on your morals. Yes, we've done so much for the community. Okay, what else? What's next? Right? Don't forget the why. Is it for the youth or is it for you? Is it for the future or is it for you? Right? So, 10 out of 10 to our amazing panelists, honestly. Different words and nuggets of wisdom left and right. So, with that being said, it's time for the Q&A. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to make your voice heard. We've heard from our amazing panelists. We've heard from their works of life, where they're coming from, the perspectives. Now it's time for us to pick their brain. Technical, are there any questions within the chat?
So I do see a question and I'm going to read it out.
Okay.
This is from Bola Adesope. I find it interesting that government and government agencies enact policies that touch of specific and diverse groups without consulting or engaging communities associations. My submission has always been to create a focus group with representation from these associations and organizations. So I guess Jody or Ovie.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I agree with the statement, and I think I'm going to repeat kind of the beginning of it. It says, I find it interesting that government and government agencies enact policies that touch a specific and diverse group without consulting and engaging with communities. And when you think about, it would be nice to say this is an oversight, or, when people come together in the planning phase and the engagement phase of doing work, that sometimes these things get missed. But I think we often hear people doing and apologizing after, and using that ability to move forward on things without the proper people at the table who are going to be impacted by this change, and really knowing, like, is this really going to drive the change that is needed? And it leaves me always wondering, and not even wondering, but also just recognizing that oftentimes people who operate from this way of leading an initiative or project or policy or improving things are probably truly not invested on the actual tangible change that we require. Because how do you do anything without the heart of what you're trying to do being absent in the beginning stages of that? And historically, we've seen that happen. So when things are positioned as unintentional, I'm under the belief that it is intentional, because you cannot do something where you're trying to bring change or improvement to a community or individual and then exclude them out of the process. I will wrap with this and going back to why NGOs and charitable organizations are important. We become the voice that holds that behavior accountable. And we use our influence and we use the different pathways that we can call things out and hold people or call people in. It's not always about calling out, calling people in, leaning them in to saying like, we see a pattern here, we know what's going on here, and this is how it's going to be done better in the future if you want to do things like this. So I'll leave it there.
Great. I just want to add another thing to what you said, where you said it has to be on purpose to some extent, because it also could tie to the notion of like a savior complex. Like we know what's best, but like how everyone has touched, you have to go to these communities. You have to ask, how can we be of help? Instead of just assuming and then not even looking at what the damages your actions could make. Jody, were you about to touch on the topic as well? Question.
Yeah, I think it was covered pretty much. I come from obviously my Indigenous perspective. We'll never ever, it will never, anything that we're fighting for or wanting will not be taken care of until the original people of this land is. And we have third world communities here that are not taken care of. The government controls our money. The government controls there's so much control, but there's so much that people don't know about the truth of how this country runs. And there's, different belief systems, there's different laws, there's different there's so much that people do not know the truth about how this country is governed. And the more that they do know, the more, I guess, we will collectively be moving the government to be more accountable, because we can continue to do the work that we can do, but it's like it's a cycle, and we're starting a cycle again, all over again, because we're seeing women that were in power being removed from power for no reason. We're seeing a lot of really aggressive moves from our government, from a very misogynistic approach. So we really, this is a time for us to become really collaborative and collective in our movement. So yes, collaborating, like I think our NGOs have to really look at, it is not competition between us, no matter what, no matter if you're the same race, in the same community, in the same anything. We can't look at it as competition with each other, because that's what the government wants us to. They want us to fight amongst each other, compete against each other. They want us to stay divided. And that is a very old systemic mindset. And this is where we get to take our girl power and our matriarchal ways and move into, yes, partnership, collaboration. How do we show up and say, hey, we're really good at this, you're really good at that? How do we cross our paths and make sure that we're not doing the same work, right? And really help elevate each other. So, I love this opportunity to be, as always, on this platform to share perspectives from what I know as an urban Indigenous woman, that there is not a lot of space for us, even though we're Indigenous and people think there's lots of money and resources. I've been working really hard in the urban center in the Halton region, and I compete like non-Indigenous. My Indigenous organization, our Indigenous organization, Indigenous people compete for our own funding with non-Indigenous organizations. So we just flip that around, and we're like, we're not going to compete. We're just going to spread love. We're just going to spread equity, diversity, inclusion from our own perspectives and our own ways. And we just create what it is we want to be. And that's, I hope that that's where we can all, come together.
I want to add, I want to touch on what you actually said when you said, it's not a competition, right? We get into that mindset of, oh, it's me. If it's not, there can only be one, apparently, right? And that kind of mindset actually closes doors, right? We talk about the glass ceiling. Well, that kind of mindset adds to that, right? So as long as when we realize that, like, it's not a bad thing for more than one person to get a position, especially if they look like me. Why wouldn't I want more people who look like me, who are qualified, get these type of position? Why would I be the detriment to the success, right? It's that mindset of competition. We need to be able to take a step back and see, like, again, it's not always about us. It's about community as a whole. It's about the collective. With that being said, I actually see another question from Ninkem, and I'm going to read the above before I go into the question. And I believe it touches on what Lady Abba spoke about. Where it says, Canada really makes us feel like nobody. The right NGO can make us remember who we are. Is there a suggestion on how people who have forgotten who they are get the best out of NGOs such as CMP and CAP?
So I can take that. I would say join us. When you join us, what's available to you is mentoring, right? You need people in the right, industry, people that have gone before you. I got a story to tell. Everyone actually has a story to tell. That was why I wrote my first book, How My Why Me Moments Shaped My Life. When my bio was read, I don't know whether I was here or this is the second event today, so I'm mixing things up a little and I'm getting old, don't mind me. When my bio was read, there was something about one of the quotes that I said, which is talking about my purpose. Some of us, we already know our purpose. There's so many professionals in CAP that are willing to support as much as possible. And it's free of charge. They're giving you their time to educate you, to support you, to guide you, to make you know that I hear you, I see you, have been there. And I'm here for you, because the more we're able to help each other land and thrive in Canada, the more opportunities we're creating for our children and generations unborn. So if you join us, we will introduce you to all these amazing professionals. I would say we have a lot of people. I mean, these are part of our community. I mean, look, there was a lady that reached out to me and said, I want to do my master's in nursing. Guess who I called? Ovie. I called Ovie. And Ovie said, I have a community for that. And that's the point. You can't sit in your house and expect manna to fall. Yeah, it happened during the Israelites. It's not necessarily going to happen now. You got to make it fall. How you make it fall is by networking, getting to know people who are where you want to be, where you've been, actually. When I coach people, I tell them, one of the reasons that brought you to Canada, just because most people go to PR, is they'll look at your skills, they'll look at your education, they'll look at your expertise, and that's really why they're bringing you here. And then you come here and then you realize that all those skills, expertise, and experience is amounts to very little. But when you have people that can guide you, it becomes better. So go out for events, not just in your community, everywhere for that matter. I mean, I go to a lot of events. If you look at my WhatsApp, you're going to be flabbergasted. I'm always in one thing or the other. I don't post much on LinkedIn about that. I'd rather post CMP because we do a lot of events, like I said. Come out, meet virtually, meet in person. Know what's happening beyond your community. Know what's happening in your profession. It may not be everybody that will be ready to do what we do for free, but we are there for you. And I'm sure if you reach out to Ovie, she's going to do the same thing. I'm sure if you reach out to Jody, seriously, there's so many times I call her out and, they're there. Everybody is there. Because why? We felt it. We've been through it and we're doing something about it. So we welcome you to join us. And I think we'll put the websites in the chat again. I did put Grandmother's Voice in the chat. Ovie, if you don't mind putting your website in the chat so everybody knows about what everybody is doing. And if you represent any organization, please put your website in the chat. Let people get to know you. Let's form that league of, building each other up. The sky is big enough for birds to fly. We should not be competing with each other. We should be collaborating with each other. We should be connecting with each other. We should be lifting each other up. That's the only way we can win. That's the winning formula. I'm going to stop there.
Well said. Lady O, do you have anything to add?
I do. So there's a couple things I want to say. One, we don't operate with a victim mentality. So you cannot be forgotten unless you choose to not invest in yourself and make yourself someone who's not, someone who doesn't want to be remembered. And I'm saying something about being remembered is not something you go out to say who I am, look at me. It goes back to something that Lady A said today. What is your why? If you figure out your why, you will absolutely start to seek and search for environments, communities, organizations, non-for-profit spaces that speak to your why and where you want to impart your skills and your passion into. One thing that I will say, and I heard Lydia say it, but it's a scripture which I'll say part of it that spoke to me in this season, and it's Hebrews 10:7. And it says, "There I come in the volume of the book, it's written of me." Right? And it continues to say, "To do thy will." So if you're doing the will of God, if you're doing the will of your purpose, if you're operating in a space of intentionality with adding and serving others, you can never be forgotten. I think when you look at everybody here in this space who's speaking about the NGO and non-for-profit space, we're at different journeys of this. I'll say this, people look at me and they see me as a baby, but it came down to me getting into this non-for-profit space, into this charitable space, into this advocacy space, into being a voice for the voiceless. That was another thing that Lady A said today. It wasn't because I felt forgotten in Canada, a country that I'm born in, but my ancestry is from Nigeria and from Guyana. I walked into this space because I recognized that people were muted. I recognized that if I didn't rise up and take action with something that was placed in my heart, a vision that was given to me from my maker, that I'm doing a disservice to others who need to see that example of what it is to take a stand within wherever you are, whichever region, whichever nation that you are, and knowing that you can be remembered by being someone who's memorable. And when you're operating in a place where it's bigger than you, it's hard to be forgotten, right? So remember your why and find communities that allow your why to be amplified and to come up and take roots. Oftentimes we work for places where we're paid, we're given a title, but we're also boxed into the creativity and what we can do within those roles professionally. And I think oftentimes we don't realize the power and the blessings that come from volunteering and working in NGO and charitable spaces. I heard Immanuel speak to it eloquently in terms of what he's been able to do under the organization of CNP. I think if you heard the ability for his skill sets to flourish and him to take on opportunities to do things that he didn't have as a skill set and find ways of learning it and adding to his resume. My resume became what it became from walking into a non-for-profit space and creating that entrepreneur spirit. My resume did not get robust from the work that I've done as a registered nurse in leadership for over 16 years, because it's limited in what I can do. And I have the ability to just do as I may in the nonprofit space and walk in a way that brings about opportunities. to do this work. And again, I wouldn't have met anybody who's here today or be able to speak anywhere here today had I not stepped into being a person who can never be forgotten. And now I'm going to be in the volume of the book, right? And that's because I took a step to serve others and to be a voice in an area where there's a gap, and to bring forward a non-for-profit charitable organization that never existed in the history of Canada. So step into your why, step into the themes of what is happening in your life that's a pattern that shows you have strength, you have a unique ability that nobody else has. Not that you're looking to see who else has it, but just step into your why and intersect into communities and organizations and non-for-profit spaces where you can amplify your why.
Well said. It's always good to, that reminds me of a saying that, how do I put it? It's like, know your value. Your surrounding will dictate your value. Like if you are in the city, you give a bottle of water can go for $1, but in the desert could go for $500, right? Put yourself where your why is of value so you can shine and grow. And with that being said, are there any more questions actually? Or
May I just add a little thing here?
I completely missed your hand. So sorry, Lady Abba.
Not a problem. So I just wanted to share some nuggets to encourage anyone here that may be feeling, not where they should be. And one of it is the no word. When you hear no, what does it mean to you? Does it mean I'm not good enough? Does it mean this is the end of it? Or do you look at it as, you know what? It could be next opportunity for you, right? The way we see things matter. I always look for the golden meaning in everything that I see. And another nugget I want to share is, we've heard about the half full, half empty cup. And I tell people that my cup is refillable because it is. It's not about half full. It's not about half empty. It is refillable. We go through things in life that we wonder why we're going through it. I just said it, I didn't get my first degree until I was 35. And I left high school at age 16. Anyone hearing that story will say, oh, it's over for her. No, it's not over till it's over. So when we say half full, half empty, your cup is refillable. And it's a Bible verse too. I'm a Christian. It's in the Bible. Your cup is refillable. And one final thing that I'm going to say, I don't know if Ovie remember, we had this, conversation. It was a panel of women talking. Do you remember what I'm about to say, Ovie? Would you like to say, you don't remember? Okay. Let me give you an hint because I don't want to steal your thunder. When life gives you lemon, Ovie.
Yes. You make champagne. You make champagne. So yes, always remember that. When life gives you lemons, do not settle with making lemonade. It's basically what that is. Take it to the next level of excellence, and you make the best out of the best, and you make champagne out of lemons. That is, yes.
That is an amazing saying. That's caught me off guard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just like lemonade, champagne. Pardon?
Because you can zing it, or it depends on the ingredient you put into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's dependent on you. Do you want to settle or do you want to excel? It's your choice. I choose to excel.
Exactly.
Does anybody here agree with me? If you choose to excel, why don't you just type it in the chat and let us know that I choose to excel? It's as simple as that. I choose to excel. Thank you.
Wow. Well, I think that's that for all the questions and answers. And I just want to thank each of our wonderful panelists, Lady Jody, Lady Ovie, Lady Abba.
Can I stop you? That's not the end
Okay.
of the question. There was a
Oh,
lady, and I think we need to tackle that question. There's a lady in the chat that said, "Is your dream big enough that scares you?" I think each one of us needs to address that. Is your
that's not really a
dream?
question, but it is a good thing to touch on.
Okay, thank you.
So, Lady Abba, since you actually pointed it out, could you touch on it first?
Absolutely. You know, I talked about uh, evolution of your dream. Your dream cannot be static. In the community world, even though it's a place where there's no payment or whatever, it is still big. I tell people that community never sleeps. Is it big enough that it scares me? Yes, it is big enough that it scares me because this work is not about me. It's about the community. It's about our legacy. It's about the history we're leaving behind. Because we all will become history one way. When we leave, what is going to be said about us? When we leave, what impact have we made? You know, I always say that whatever we do has to be beyond the horse. It can't just be about me and my family. If it was just me and my family, that's good, that's cool. But if it's beyond me and my family, it becomes bigger than life. And that is why I keep saying everyone here needs to be part of that journey. Because collectively, we can make it bigger and it will be less scary. But when it's one person going on the journey, it could be scary. So yes, it's big enough to scare me. I mean, what's the point of a goal that you know how to achieve it? It's no longer a goal. But when you need help to actually achieve that goal, to make it a reality, then now we're talking. I'm going to stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lady O?
The truth of the matter is, when you have a dream that's bigger than you and you just initiate it, there are probably hundreds of people who potentially have thought about that idea, but didn't have the courage to step forward and do it, or other things distracted them from doing it. So when you have something that's bigger than you, your tribe will come, your people will come. When you're doing things that serves a greater purpose, again, I have to go back into scripture. I had the privilege of, when I started this organization, being reminded in scripture, a story where David got instructions to tell Solomon to build his temple, and it was for the glory of God. In that book, Solomon never had to look for people to help him build the temple of God. They all came under the instructions of the divine and helped build that temple. And that's the power of having something that's bigger than you, is being patient in the journey, that knowing that once you put it out there, once you make the step to do it and it's serving others, that people will come. I think I heard Lady A say earlier that this is a journey, and oftentimes when people see it and think they can do it better, that's amazing. But nobody knows the behind the scene work to actually build and put those bricks together. All they see is the shiny lights and they see all the nice stuff. So it looks like it's easy to do. But I think when you look at, if you have something big and you have something that you have an idea with, just step out and do it. The worst thing that you will learn is you are A, the person called to do it, or B, you're going to have multiple people who support you to achieve it, or B, that's not your particular why and you'll be shifted to your why. So don't let multiple journeys into thinking you know your why and not seeing it materialize stop you from truly finding your why. Your why has to generally be bigger than you, or it's not a why. So it cannot be tied to money, right? Because money is something that we create. Your why has to be something that cannot be created. It's something that is neat, like it's needed. Money was something that was created to create a system of control, right? Your why has nothing to do with anything that was created. It's something that's ordained and innate, that without it, humanity cannot thrive without it. So
Thank you so much, Lady Ovie. Lady Jody?
Hi. So the elders that I work with and the indigenous understanding that we have is that you feel it. There's this moment in time that you have that vision, you have that why, you have that dream, whatever that is, it comes to a sense in your body. It's a sense in your being. And when you have that sense, that spark, that fire, whatever, however you want to look at that, there's that feeling. And you had mentioned, Lady O, about the staying on your path, or however that was said, that you just have to stay on your path. You have to go inside. So if you have that fire inside and you have that spark and your why is inside your body, and you can make that feeling inside your body, when you think of it or something happens and it just keeps you on your path, that's the spark that keeps you going. Being able to pay attention to that is what attracts people to you, right? Because you're constantly tapped into that feeling. And there's going to be days where you get taken off, you wake up, you have a bad day or something happens and it takes you, but that's what that's the feeling of when you have that why, it, because when you think about it, it happens in your body, you feel it in your body. So yeah, and it's hard to stay in that place of creation. It really is, because the noise outside in the world gets in your way. And that's why it's so important to have that's what I look at this whole conversation about is the power of the people who are in these opportunities, in these spaces, that can continue to inspire each other, like you were saying, with the stories and the experiences. And we're here to inspire each other so that we can all live and be in our whys every single day. And they don't have to be big and huge. They don't have to be anything. I may never, ever in my community be acknowledged by my Indigenous community at large. I may leave this, physical world and never be acknowledged for what I have done. That's not why I do it. And that's a really big reality in this world, in this space of NGO and nonprofits, is you can do a lot of this work and you may never, ever get acknowledged in the front lines, right? That's when I think that that you're doing good stuff.
Well said. And I want to thank everyone for your contribution to this conversation. And Lady Jody, Lady Ovie, Lady Laba, I'm so sorry, but it seems we're going to have to close the Council of the High Ladies and bring back our MC. So, Mr. Tayo, please welcome back.
Thank you so much, Immanuel. This was moderation at its finest. Thank you. So I'm not surprised that Lady Ava's son. Come on. Thank you so much. And to the amazing, like Immanuel said, the amazing Council of Ladies, this has been eye-opening. This has been phenomenal. I enjoyed every bit of this. You guys were spitting balls of fire. And I'll be like, ouch, that was deep. Thank you so much. If we were back in Nigeria, I would have said, let's hold hands and say, my father, I shall not settle. And we will turn that to a prayer point. We are not settling for less. We are not. It's like they say, it's not about what you drive, it's about what drives you. Your why has to be bigger than you. And if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. You have to dream again. And like I always like to tell people, if you are remembered for two things, the problems you solve and the ones you create. So what do you want to be remembered for? So I would like to leave us with that tonight. And in the words of Mother Teresa. She said, the work of NGOs reminds us that inclusion is a shared responsibility requiring collective compassion and action. And Eleanor Roosevelt said, true inclusion happens when NGOs serve as bridges between communities, fostering unity and understanding. And everything we have said tonight, I've actually really touched on this saying. So, and I saw in the chat somebody quoted what Lady O2 said. I'm going to modify her name to Lady O2, to what she said, and put Power of Inclusion 2024 and hashtag all of those things. And it's been really amazing. When I try to think about what tonight would look like, try to envisage it, but I mean, this has beat my expectation in every sphere. So thank you once again, the Council of Ladies, Lady Abba, Lady O, Lady Jody. They all look gentle, but you won't expect, the weight of what is coming from them. This is really, if, anything, this has resolved my belief and, my strength and my belief in NGOs and not-for-profit as being a bridge. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, tomorrow we'll have two sessions as well. The first session will talk about the importance of religion in inclusion, and our final session for tomorrow, another two-course meal. But there's a difference in timing. So tomorrow is from 2 to 4 p.m. We'll be talking about the importance of religion in inclusion, and then we'll have a 2-hour break, and then we'll come back at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. talking about the importance of financial inclusion in of financial literacy in inclusion, right? The importance of financial literacy in inclusion. And that is how we'll round up the virtual event. And then come Saturday morning, we'll be meeting Saturday. I'm too excited. It's not in the morning. Saturday at 3 p.m., we'll be meeting at the gala, and we'll put, information in the chats for everyone to be aware, so you can quickly buy your tickets, buy a table for you and your friends, so you can come and celebrate, with us as we round up at the gala. All right, so tomorrow, don't forget 2 p.m. and then 6 p.m., we will be talking about the importance of religion in inclusion and the importance of financial literacy in inclusion. Okay, without much ado, Immanuel has been so amazing tonight that I'm like, do I have any thought in speaking engagement? So I want to get as much from Immanuel. I'm going to squeeze him out again for him to help us with the vote of thanks and the closing. Thank you.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Julius. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of this insightful webinar on the importance of NGO and charitable organization in inclusion. I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who made it and everyone who made this event possible. To our esteemed panelists, your thought-provoking perspective has shed light on the crucial role both entities play in helping inequality, empowering marginalized communities, and building a more inclusive society. Your expertise and dedication to the cause have been truly inspiring to us all. And to our audience, your engagement and thought-provoking questions have helped enrich our conversation. It is your passion and commitment that fuels the success of the initiatives that we aim to achieve. A special thanks to the organizing team and our technical. And thank you once again for being part of this important conversation. Together, we can drive to make a meaningful change. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Have an amazing